So we are now moving into the meat and potatoes of the yoga philosophy. And so we're going to talk about ahimsa. Ahimsa means the lack of violence, practicing consideration to others. And the interesting part about this is that it means that we do this all the time, not just when we feel like it. Because the problem is that as human beings, we practice consideration, but only when we feel like it. If we don't feel like it, we don't practice consideration. If we don't feel like it, we don't practice being nice to other people. We just don't feel like it. Right? And so Ahimsa talks to us about that because it tells us to practice nonviolence to everything, to every living being. Cats, dogs, to everything. It even includes, those of you that don't like insects, right? So technically, we just want to be able to practice nonviolence because when we practice violence, what we're doing is we're accruing a karmic debt, right? In other words, we're accruing, does everybody know what accruing means? Building up, right? Okay. Yes? Hello, are we awake? Yes. Okay. All right, so accruing means to build up, right? So we want to accrue, just like when you put money in the bank account, it accrues interest. That's the correct terminology. It accrues interest, right? Karma is the same thing. You're either going to accrue good karma or you're going to accrue bad karma, right? It's sort of like, just like when your bank account, right? You accrue savings and you like it when your savings grows. Then you spend the money and then your savings comes down less, right? So what we want to do is we want to be aware of how many times throughout the day that we don't practice kindness, especially in our thoughts. Because sometimes we think, well, if they can't hear what I'm thinking, then it's okay. How many times have we thought about that, right? How many times while your mom is yelling at you are you thinking or cussing her out in your head, right? Or just wishing she was dead sometimes. That's happened a lot, yeah? Or somebody else who's yelling at you. Maybe even your boyfriend or somebody, right? They're yelling at you and you're thinking naughty thoughts. Right? If I could get into your head, you would probably have a motion picture going on of ways to harm your boyfriend, right? While he's yelling at you, yeah? So what happens is that we have to be very careful because even our thoughts are energy, right? And once we remember that we have to practice ahimsa with our thoughts as well as our actions, then what we do is we act in ahimsa, in consideration, ¿verdad? Same thing with everybody. As you guys walk through your day, are there professors that you really don't care for? I'm sorry? Yes? Yes. You've encountered, right? Just a few, not too many, right? But maybe there is a few. And what's the first thing you think about them? What would you say? What do you think about them when they're not being what? Nice, exactly. They're not being nice. So when they're not practicing ahimsa, the hardest time for you to practice ahimsa and the most important time for you to practice ahimsa is when somebody is not being nice to you. Now it doesn't say up there, look at the words, it doesn't say up there anything about it's going to be easy, right? Doesn't say that. It says that you're supposed to do it no matter what, basically. And so the next time somebody's yelling at you, instead of yelling back, you're supposed to practice ahimsa, listen to them, let them finish, And then clarify instead of yelling back at them, right? We want to be able to practice ahimsa all the time. All the time. Now let me give you an example, another time where you could practice ahimsa but you don't. How many times are you sitting there talking with your friend and somebody else walks by and all their papers or the door closes on them or their hands are full and they can't get the door and you just watch? Yes, that happens a lot. A lot. It happens to me a lot. I drag my big cart around and the cart gets stuck, the door closes on the cart and there's kids standing there watching me as they're talking. Never do I get one of the kids to come up and say, oh, here, let me help you. Ever. And that's sad. Because we've never learned to practice ahimsa. Right? So now you've got to look for opportunities to practice ahimsa. We are now going to change our mind. Everybody in this class is going to change the way we live. We're not going to wait until mom says, ay, recoge lo que se cayó en el piso. Right? No, we're going to see that thing on the ground and we're going to pick it up ourselves, right? Don't wait to be asked. You've got to practice ahimsa. Consideration, considerate attitude means that you anticipate what is going to go on and you move forward. Consideration are the people that get job promotions. Consideration are the people that get held on as everybody else is being laid off. Those are the things that are going to make you stand out in the crowd. Okay? So we practice ahimsa. Does everybody understand what ahimsa means?
Yes.
Good. Give me an example. Somebody raise their hand and give me an example of a time when you can practice ahimsa.
Okay.
Yes.
Mama says when somebody is bothering you and giving to you problems and he don't wants to believe in you, and you can say, God bless you.
There you go. That's practicing ahimsa.
Ahimsa is giving a blessing, it's giving a
consideration. Yes, because a blessing is a consideration. Mm-hmm. It could be that too. It could be as simple as that. How about another example?
Forgiveness also.
Pardon me?
Forgiveness. Like when you don't hold grudge.
That's a different yama. We're getting to that. This one is when you practice consideration.
Oh, okay.
When you go out of your way to practice consideration. So give me another example. Yes.
Yesterday, I was at the Swami, so I was walking with my boyfriend, and I saw there were some elderly people setting their stuff, so their table, like, I guess it fell. So they were like, ay, mija, ya lo tiraste, this and that. They were turning the granddaughter. So I just passed, and like I felt like I wanted to help them, and I was like, oh. So I went back, so I helped them pick them up, and they're like, oh, thank you, this and that. So I felt good, because as you were saying, practice it. But I just saw them as like, oh, you know, pero, ya saben, I remember you, was like, no, go back. So I went back, and I helped them out. That's what happened.
And that's a natural reaction. Thank you for sharing. That is a natural reaction. Something falls on somebody and we just kind of walk by and something inside us knows, but one of two things happens. Either we're too embarrassed to help them because we're so afraid that people are going to say, no, so what? So what? No, thank you, I got this. So what? Thank you. Well, that's good. Thank you. At least you did your part. You see, if we wait for everybody to practice ahimsa, ain't nobody going to practice ahimsa. We're never going to get there. So don't wait for somebody to practice ahimsa. You got to go and practice ahimsa. Open the door for somebody. Somebody drops something, pick it up. Be nice to your teacher. You see she's over there and she doesn't have an eraser. Put an eraser next to her. Pull out the chair. Pull out the chair for somebody that's that needs to sit down. Whatever it is. Give your mom a glass of water when you get home from school.
Oh, that's nice.
Right? Mami, a ver, siéntate, mami, un tantito. Deja darte un vasito de agua, así no. That is consideration. When you see a dog out in the street, how many of you go, oh my God, look at the dog? Yeah, you're supposed to practice ahimsa even with dogs.
With animals.
Right? Even with animals, with every living thing. Practice ahimsa. Park on the side of the road and move the dog off the street. I've done that many times. And the times that I haven't done it, when I drive back down the street, there the dog is dead. So practice ahimsa with cats, with dogs, with birds, with spiders, and and I know, don't kill it. Get a broom and sweep it out of the house. Do the best you can to move it from your location, but don't outright go and kill it, right? Unless of course, it's attacking you, right? Okay? So I want you to practice ahimsa. So for 5 days, I want you every day of those 5 days to practice ahimsa 5 times at least. And then I want you to write it down. I want you to think, I'm going to practice ahimsa. And then you write down, today, before my mom asked me to, I took out the trash. That's number 1, right? Or today when I was walking across the street, some lady dropped her purse, I picked it up and gave it to her. That counts. 5 of those a day. 5 good, they call them good deeds. But in yoga, we practice ahimsa all the time. Right? Ahimsa all the time. Does everybody understand the homework? And now the second thing is you're going to write a nice, kind, considerate, loving letter to a parent. I was going to put mom, but then some people don't have moms. Okay? So you're going to write a letter, and you're going to be very kind. You're going to be very considerate. You're going to tell them whatever it is you want to tell them, but it's going to be a kind, loving, considerate letter. You don't have to give it to them. You just have to write it. That's what a journal's for. Many times you don't have to give the letter. It's the thought and the feelings that come out that will radiate out. Okay? So those are the 2 homeworks. Does everybody understand those 2 homeworks?
Yes.
Good? Okay. And they have to have the date of the ahimsa. This is ahimsa, right? So put your notes in ahimsa, and then that homework, put it right underneath it, right? 5-page, the 5 things, okay? And it's going to be in your journal because I'm going to look for it at the midterm, okay? Got it?
Got it.
Bien.